All right, day one of making some cold calls. You can see I got my insurance X dates and little audio set up here for the calls. Usually I like to start the calls. I have an objection list of like 2 or 3 objections that come up a lot. I kind of just refresh myself on them and read through them a couple times. Obviously I have my cold call script that I read through, which is just in a Google Doc. I have my list prepared from the day before, and then I just go into it and, make as many dials as I can. I usually have about an hour and a half to a 2-hour block out in the morning for this. So I'll keep you guys posted with some of the results.
Marsha, you do a phenomenal job of answering the phones, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, like some people just naturally sound like kind and energetic when they answer the phone, and you do a great job of that.
Oh, thank you very much.
So one of the things, like, I pay for mentorship on the business side, but I'm still involved in sales, so I pay for mentorship on the sales side too. And one of the things I went over with a mentor last week was how to answer the phones. We already went over this part, but it's like, however you want to say it. Marsha, you say it great. You basically say something along the lines of, hey, this is Marsha with Sound Harbor Insurance. How you doing today? How can I help you? And that's like, how can I help you? How are you doing today? Like, very kind, comes across the phone in a good way. So whatever naturally feels good for you. I just want to try to avoid, like, most people have spoken to at least five other agents in their lifetime before, right? And we're trying to figure out what separates us from those other agents on the phone. And that's going to come across in like the first minute on the phone, right? So I think it's super important. It sounds cheesy, but like the way we answer the phone does make a big difference. When somebody calls in and you're asking for their name, instead of saying who's calling or what's your name, you want to phrase it in a different way. Like what this person told me to say, which I actually really like, is, by the way, who do I have the pleasure of speaking with? So I wrote that down so you guys can remember it. If they don't give you your name, just, by the way, who do I have the pleasure of speaking with? And then when they give you their name, you don't want to take this overboard and say their name 60 times, but once or twice I feel like is a sweet spot. So if they say, oh, it's Ron, I'm calling about my homeowner's insurance, you say, okay, Ron, no problem. Ron, by the way, how did you hear about us? Right? So I said his name twice in like a 15-second window, right? And why you want to do that is because it shows people you're listening. Let's be honest, people love hearing their name. It's some psychological thing that they love. So when you're doing a lot of the service stuff, those are like little word weapons that I think would be good for you guys to use.
All right, good morning. Yesterday we had an awesome team meeting. We discussed how to answer the phones, but most importantly, how to be different, kind, caring, passionate over the phone within the first minute of answering the phone, right? Because a lot of the times, and I've called other agencies before, a lot of times you'll call them and they'll say, Shawn, Sound Harbor, or, this is blah, blah, blah. How can I help you? And the tonality is just right off the bat, I am not excited to talk to this person, right? So how do we be different, right? How do we show that we're caring and passionate about what we do? And one of the main ways to do that is how to answer the phone the right way and how to collect the person's name, especially if you're on the service side, how to collect the person's name and repeat it back to them. So by doing those things, it is really going to differentiate ourselves, right? So if I answer the phone and I say, hey, this is Shawn from Sound Harbor, how can I help you today? Energetic, upbeat, I'm asking how I can help them, I'm showing I care, and then I make sure to get their name, right? So, hey, who do I have the pleasure of speaking with? How can I serve you today? What can I help you with today? Right? Again, same energy, tone. I'm passionate. I'm showing I care. I'm showing I listen, because I'm now going to repeat their name back to them. So these are just little things, like I called them in the meeting, little word weapons, right, that we use that can help us throughout the sales and service process.
Yeah, and at the same time, you can't shine if you're not prepared for the conversation. So if you don't have a process built around it, you're never going to win that conversation,
No, it's a white glove approach. That's how
Yeah.
I look at it.
Right.
If we're not doing this this one little thing that this is what we promise our clients. Everybody says we promise to be there in need for you. Dr. Billy Williams always says, like, hey, did you offer the best coverages to keep the lifestyle the same? If we can't simply do that to make the process easy for them, then you're just opening the door for them to leave.
Yep.
All right, good morning. Just wanted to give you an update as far as the agency is concerned and what the week's looking like so far. So right now it's Thursday morning, headed to the gym. Got to take the wife to the train, got to drop the kids off at daycare. Got a jam-packed day today. Got a bunch of meetings throughout the day. Yesterday, I had an awesome opportunity to have a conversation with Brett Young. And whenever I have the opportunity to have a conversation with Brett Young, I drop everything else I'm doing because that man just drops gold all the time, all day, every day. And it was a freaking great conversation. You know, besides just catching up and just getting to see where we're each at within our agencies. I also got to ask him a question that's been on my mind a bit, and I'm planning for 2025 goals. And one of the things I'm looking to do is obviously bring on another producer and recruit a little bit more for Sound Harbor. But obviously that takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of planning. If that's something I really want to focus on, I need to strategize and plan for it. So it's kind of having a little battle in my head, like, you know, do I mainly focus on new business? Do I mainly focus on this recruiting process and building out the team? And I was just kind of having like a little mental battle with myself, and being able to talk to someone who has years more experience than I do and who's further ahead of me in the agency life. I got to ask Brett, and Brett told me straight up, hey man, focus on sales. Focus on bringing in more revenue. I'm like right in a weird spot right now where the agency is generating some good revenue, but we still aren't in the place that I need to be or want to be before I can, you know, bring on and pay some people enough money. So those are a lot of things I'm working on right now. So 2025 is going to be the year of revenue and building out the team and getting our producer that we have now over 100,000 in revenue for his first year, which is going to be awesome. So we're working on that. My producer now is actually working on an account that it's a home out east on Long Island. The guy is knocking down his house and building up a brand new house. It's about $7 million in construction costs. So that's going to be an interesting account we're working on. Working on a nightclub in Queens. So usually we work on more of like restaurants and bars, and nightclubs isn't something, you know, that we come across too often. But we have the markets for it. I had a conversation with Steven the other day. I joined that local electrical contractor association, and I'm trying to get more involved in that association. So I turned to Steven Turnbull, who is the local community king, I would call him. That guy, if you have anything about prospecting locally in your community, that's the guy to talk to. So I kind of just picked his brain, how he would go about, you know, getting to know people more in the group and how to get more involved. And one of the things he told me, which I thought was a great piece of advice, is like, hey, instead of just going to the meetings, after the meeting, why don't you reach out to, you know, 4 or 5 of the people you connected with personally and just grab coffee with them. So that's what I'm doing this week. I'm reaching out to a few of the people, just seeing if they want to grab a cup of coffee, catch up, and get to learn a little bit more about their business. So a lot of good things in the work, and we'll have more later today. All right, just wrapped up an awesome gym session to start the day off right. It amazes me that I've interviewed now with Steven on the Scratch Agency podcast. I think it's about 100 different agency owners from across the nation. And it amazes me that each time we talk to somebody, we learn that there's a different way to prospect and sell insurance. It just blows my mind. So the other day we talked to somebody who does like hyper localized ads. Shout out to Mike Sharp, he's a savage. And he just talked about how he paid for ads for local sports teams in his area for the school. Then he reached out to neighboring schools, and that's how he generates a majority of his leads. And then on the complete other side of that, I spoke to somebody, I think it was like 2 or 3 days ago, that told me they close on average 80 life deals a month. Yes, 80 life deals a month. I'll say that again real slow. And I asked him, how are you doing 80 life deals a month? And he told me, I cold call. And I said, okay, how much are you cold calling? 300 dials a day. And, you know, when you first hear that, you might think, oh, that's not even possible. You can't sustain and be consistent with 300 dials a day. But when I talk to him about his process, he's got it dialed in, and trust me, I believe he's doing 300 dials a day. If you have the right, you know, aged or new leads or a lead list, and you have the predictive dialer that's, you know, dialing 3 to 6 numbers at the same time and just transferring the ones that pick up, there's a way to do it for sure. So, you know, when I hear those types of things, again, it just blows my mind how many different ways there are to sell insurance, whether it's, you know, being local in the community or, you know, good old fashioned cold calling.
All right, just had an awesome call with Taylor Garcia. We discussed more about our niche, how we're going to continue to prospect our niche, you know, building out the specific prospecting funnel that we have for them. One of the biggest things we are focusing on is handling objections via the cold call and cold calling specifically. So we just got off our weekly strategy call, and what we're going to do is start cold calling on a daily basis, and we're going to role play with each other how to handle certain objections, very common ones that come up in the insurance space specifically via cold calling. I think the way to handle objections are completely different versus all industries, right? But they're also very different depending on the types of leads you're calling on, right? Like if I'm calling leads that I purchase for homeowners insurance, the way you handle objections for that versus like a straight up cold call to a business owner are completely different. So building out how to answer objections is something I've been really working and focusing on, and I have a really cool playbook built around that. So Taylor and I were going over that today, and we're pumped to get into some cold calling. So some good content coming for you soon.